My name is Mindy. I'm a licensed massage therapist, and I specialize in deep tissue bodywork and myofascial release. I connect very deeply to nature ever since I was little. My mom always tells me that one of my first words was outside. Always wanted to be outside, whether it was in the mountains, skiing, snowboarding, hiking. Growing up in Colorado, those were all big activities for me and a huge part of my lifestyle. Moving to Florida, I connected very quickly to the water, to the beach, and sought out natural habitat. One of the best ways for me to do that was being introduced to stand-up paddleboarding. From there, I discovered the peace and calm of nature in the backwater, and learned a lot about the natural environment, which was so completely different for me, coming from the mountains. I could tell you about mountain lions and bears, but I knew nothing about aquatic life. So it spawned into a passion very quickly, stemming from curiosity and just the desire to be in nature. Went very well together with my desire to keep healthy and fit, and paddleboarding is an excellent way to keep in shape as well. I think from the outside perspective, if people were to describe me in my life before coming to know Jesus, before finding that amazing gift in my life, people would have assumed a lot about me. And those things probably would have been that, well, she's put together, she's an athlete, she's the cool mom, she's the one the kids want to hang out at her house. She's athletic, she's smart, she's good at what she does, she's a good parent, she's a good friend, a lot of those things. And I'm not saying that any of those things were untrue, but deep down inside, when I really think about it and go back to that place, there was always this sensation of not quite being good enough, that something was missing. And this weird, desperate drive or desire to seek after what that was. I don't know exactly where the tables started to turn. I would say that I was still fairly content, but searching and seeking. That seeking made me feel anxious, underlying, as if I was trying to just keep it all together all the time. So what seemed like a really pretty picture and presented well on the outside was screaming for something, anything. As life started to get a little more complicated at times, and making decisions because I was trying to do it all on my own, being in control. I started to, it seemed to really culminate or fester up more and more fear, more and more worry, concern about what people were thinking, or that I didn't have enough, or I wasn't good enough, or I was too much. That I began to find myself numbing out, and my number of choice was alcohol. It started out just a glass of wine here and there, something like that. And as the story goes, it seemed like what life was in 1 minute. Fast forward, next thing I know, I'm looking up from just a pile of rubble of what remained of a life that looked like it was going along just fine, and sitting and wondering how did I get here? How did I get here? This person that the good kid with good parents that went to school, that had been successful, that loved her kids and loved her relationships and friendships. How did I end up here? I had settled in at some point, probably in my mid to late 20s, of more of kind of a Gnostic view of God. I had absolutely, very deliberately rejected some of the religious misbeliefs and misconceptions of what the God of the Bible and what Jesus Christ, who they were, what they represented, based on judging it by the people. through our human experience, none of us are perfect. But yet, church always felt to me like it was something that you had to sweep it under the rug and show up with your smile and everything was super duper, and that just didn't resonate with me. It didn't feel right. I was sick and tired of trying to be something that I wasn't. I'd put all that kind of pressure on myself and thinking that that's what it was all about. So, being safe in more of a Gnostic view, okay, well, I do know without question there's something bigger. I see it in my day-to-day life. I feel it in my goosebumps sometimes when something neat happens or whatever. Okay, so curious about spirituality. So I started to look around and delve into different theories, philosophies, different ways of thinking, believing. But this God of the Bible, this punishing, finger shaking, do good or else, God will love you if you're good and you're obedient, and but he's going to put you in your place if you mess up. And that was my takeaway. So to dismiss that part of it and just believe, okay, well, there's something bigger, but I don't want to have to feel the guilt or the shame and the things that I associated, misbeliefs of who God actually is, then it was cool. But there was still something missing. Yeah, what I didn't realize and what I'd closed off to, unfortunately, was actually what the Bible is so full of. When you learn it in a way, or you come to know God in the way that he intended for us to know him. And that is absolutely, without question, a God of grace, of love, and he gives it freely. And that sometimes is a tough one to choke down, especially when you're pointing the finger at yourself and thinking, oh my gosh, how is that even possible with all the things I've done, with the poor decisions I've made, the lives that those poor decisions have affected? How do I get this get out of jail free card, so to speak? And that there's so much freedom in allowing God into your life, allowing him to love you and giving you that grace so that you can move forward in his light. I was terrified of being judged. I came in initially just coming out of a very, very rock bottom, can't believe I took things that far, awful, shameful, guilty place. And there was a fear of judgment completely. Walking in, looking as such, but this underlying theme in my head of these people could never accept me. God could never accept me. If these people knew, if they only knew what I've done, they wouldn't welcome me here. They wouldn't like me here. After kind of hitting a rock bottom, there was a part of me now that just felt so open and so willing to just give it a shot. All fears aside, there was a yearning for a sense of community, for people who knew the place that I was in, that could relate on some level, a place that felt safe, and a place that I didn't feel alone anymore, because I was so alone. I had the opportunity to have conversations with Pastor Wayne, and that in itself was intimidating at first, based again on just kind of past experience, fear of judgment, this idea that, the leader of a church, the pastor, this is scary. And to meet this person who was truly there as a servant of God, there was a level of authenticity in the conversation and relatability. And not only that, the willingness to share his story and the story of other people that humanized the whole situation. made me feel so safe and so comfortable. I felt for the first time in quite some time that there was more to it and that I could trust what was going on there. That this church was different. This wasn't the kind of place that I had grown callous to as a teenager and as a young adult. But there might just be something more. And this God of love people talk about. Some of the things right off the bat that put me at ease was how well versed and very well experienced in his life. It's like he's lived a million lifetimes in a short period of time, experienced a lot of different spiritual views and angles on things. And yet this man here in front of me, wise and intelligent and kind and loving and caring, and has been through his fair share of a lot of crazy things himself. This is what he settled into. This is where he found truth. And it seeped out his pores. You could feel it. That was enough to make me feel that it was a safe environment to enter into. And that maybe, just maybe, I wasn't going to be judged. Maybe I really was going to be welcomed. Maybe this really was different. I can say that meeting the people in the church, of course, we all come in with these preconceived notions. That's just kind of part of what we do. We walk in, as much as we try not to, judge a book by its cover, so to speak. Well, I'm not going to have anything in common with those people. Those probably aren't going to be my friends or whatever. But so quickly, upon entering in and getting into just short conversations with people, I discovered very quickly how relatable people are in any walk of life. When you boil it down to the very basics, we're all there for the same purpose. We may have different circumstances or different cause and effects from life choices, but ultimately, when you boil it down, we're all there for the same reason, and we all can relate in our own way to exactly the same sensations, the same feelings, the same needs, wants, desires, and that yearning for connection and closeness to God. Oh, I think one of the things that I love about C3 as I've gotten to know it better is that they are what they say they are. You see it on the website, you hear it, in some of the sermons and things, and that sort of thing of real church for real people. And I'm finding that to be 110% true, completely true, no matter how much I want to disbelieve it sometimes. You go in there and you see people in their comfortable, natural self. That blew me away when I first went in, when I finally found the courage to open the door and walk through it. You have people in their most comfortable environment, and maybe that's dressed up nicely. You have people wearing their favorite football jersey. You've got people that look like they just finished running a 10K. They're still coming in dripping sweat. Perfect place for somebody like me who wants to get in a quick morning paddle and maybe doesn't have time to do anything but throw on a t-shirt and shorts. I'm welcome there. And it really is truly authentic. I love the worship in particular. For me, that resonates a great deal in being able to connect to Holy Spirit, to getting my whole frame of being in a place where I am able to really receive, listen, and take in what messages is being presented. Another thing I think I could say I really love about it too is that, and I've heard other people say it too, pretty much every time I walk out with a sense of, oh my goodness, I might have been alone in that room. That message was for me. And to me, that's God. That's God speaking. And anybody else in there might be able to say the same thing too. But my takeaway and what I carry through the week because of that is absolutely what keeps me coming back and makes me feel, not even feel as though, makes me a part of what C3 is as a community, as a church, a group of people. I definitely get a sense of being recharged and maybe even just reminded. So often you need reminders. You get to Wednesday of the week and all of a sudden all those things that you have been working so hard on or were fresh in your mind on Monday after service start to dwindle. So there is a level of refreshing. That's not where I want to go with it. The sensation of feeling like you are getting recharged or refreshed, most certainly, to continue on and carry it through the week. More so, at times, I walk out feeling challenged. It gives me something to grow from, something to work on or work towards. Inspires my curiosity and my thirst for more understanding, more knowledge, more connection to the Lord, most definitely. There's also, and very particularly important to me, is there's a level of accountability in being there. And certainly the sense of community, knowing that I'm going to be missed if I'm not there. I do find myself in conversation from time to time and knowing my experience and that sense of authenticity, that it's not a perfect place and it's not a perfect environment. It's real. It's real. And so in conversations, sometimes people will discuss feeling disgruntled or frustrated maybe in their place of worship, or have given up on the idea of having a church or a community in that way, based on reasons that I see are more, maybe it's ritualistic or legalistic. The eye has been taken off the prize, so to speak, that we're focused on the teeny little imperfections, the image of how it's all supposed to be in a perfect world. And I think what I would say about C3 is that you go in there, it's already accepted that it's not a perfect world. And we're all in this together. And if you want to come to a place where you can feel comfortable and find people in all walks of life that you can find at least one thing relatable with, that's where it's at. That's where I found it. I remember having to muster up all the nerve I could to wrap my fingers around that door and pull it open and walk in there by myself with all the fears and everything else that I had coming in to the joint. But so coming in and getting settled and walking into something that was so different, such a different environment than what I was expecting or what I perceived church was going to be like based on my experience in the past. And in this comfortable, kind of darker room, nobody was turning and staring. My shoes weren't clacking on a hardwood floor and pews weren't creaking. People were talking softly, and then the song Come As You Are came on. And in dealing with what I was dealing with in recovery and moving forward and still working through so much guilt and shame and that sort of a thing, I mean, literally music to my ears. Come As You Are. Where do you hear that in church? So immediately I felt decompressed to be able to move in there and feel like, okay, all right, we're good. So through that then, and beginning to look around and seeing all the different people, the sensations and the feelings of comfort, calm, quiet, and dark a little bit, that was new to me. all of a sudden it pops up into my head. Shel Silverstein poem that I remember from being a kid, and which to me, holy cow, I walk into a church setting, I'm completely decompressed. They're telling me I can come as I am no matter what. And now Shel Silverstein's popping into my head. This is my place. This is where I belong. This is home. I feel normal. I feel natural here. And I have to read it. I have to read it to you. I actually printed this poem up because it did pop into my head during this time. And this was my first experience at church. And I think it resonates a little bit with what actually really is happening inside that church. But so it's Shel Silverstein. It says, small as a peanut, big as a giant. We're all just the same when we turn off the light. Rich as a sultan, poor as a mite. We're all worth the same when we turn off the light. Red, black, or orange, yellow or white. We all look the same when we turn off the light. So maybe the way to make everything right is for God to just reach out and turn off the light.